The House at Pooh Corner, written by A. Milne, narrated by Kevin Theis and Sara Nichols. Contradiction. An introduction is to introduce people, but Christopher Robin and his friends, who have already been introduced to you, are now going to say goodbye. So this is the opposite. When we asked Pooh what the opposite of an introduction was, he said, "The what of a what?" which didn't help us as much as we'd hoped, but luckily Owl kept his head and told us that the opposite of an introduction, my dear Pooh, was a contradiction, and as he is very good at long words, I am sure that that's what it is. Why we are having a contradiction is because last week when Christopher Robin said to me,
"What about that story you're going to tell me about what happened to Pooh when?"
I happened to say very quickly, "What about 9 times 107? And when we had done that, we had the one about cows going through a gate at 2 a minute, and there are 300 in the field, so how many are left after an hour and a half? We find these very exciting, and when we've been excited quite enough, we curl up and go to sleep." And Pooh, sitting wakeful a little longer on his chair by our pillow, thinks grand thoughts to himself about nothing until he, too, closes his eyes and nods his head and follows us on tiptoe to the forest. There still we have magical adventures, more wonderful than any I've told you about. But now, when we wake up in the morning, they are gone before we can catch hold of them. How did the last one begin? One day, when Pooh was walking in the forest, there were 107 cows on a gate. No, you see, we've lost it. It was the best, I think. Well, here are some of the other ones, all that we shall remember now. But of course, it isn't really goodbye, because the forest will always be there, and anybody who is friendly with bears can find it. Chapter 1, in which a house is built at Pooh Corner for Eeyore. One day, when Pooh Bear had nothing else to do, he thought he would do something, so he went round to Piglet's house to see what Piglet was doing. It was still snowing, and he stumped over the white forest track, and he expected to find Piglet warming his toes in front of his fire, but to his surprise, he saw that the door was open, and the more he looked inside, the more Piglet wasn't there. "He's out," said Pooh sadly. "That's what it is. He's not in. I shall have to go a fast-thinking walk by myself. Bother." But first, he thought he would knock very loudly just to make quite sure. And while he waited for Piglet not to answer, he jumped up and down to keep warm, and a hum came suddenly into his head, which seemed to him a good hum, such as is hummed hopefully to others. The more it snows, tiddly-pom, the more it goes, tiddly-pom, the more it goes, tiddly-pom, on snowing. And nobody knows, tiddly-pom, how cold my toes, tiddly-pom, how cold my toes, tiddly-pom, are growing. "So what I'll do," said Pooh, "is I'll do this. I'll just go home first and see what the time is, and perhaps I'll put a muffler around my neck, and then I'll go see Eeyore and sing it to him." He hurried back to his own house, and his mind was so busy on the way with the hum that he was getting ready for Eeyore that when he suddenly saw Piglet sitting in his best armchair, he could only stand there rubbing his head and wondering whose house he was in. "Hello, Piglet," he said. "I thought you were out."
"No,"
said Piglet.
"it was you who were out, Pooh."
"So it was," said Pooh. "I knew one of us was." He looked up at his clock, which had stopped at 5 minutes to 11 some weeks ago. "Nearly 11 o'clock," said Pooh happily. "You're just in time for a little smackerel of something." And he put his head into the cupboard. "And then we'll go out, Piglet, and sing my song to Eeyore."
"Which song, Pooh?"
"The one we're going to sing to Eeyore," explained Pooh. The clock was still saying 5 minutes to 11 when Pooh and Piglet...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?